Thank you very much. I think that we want to take this opportunity to thank our legal representatives for having presented a very clear case against the defenders of Pravin Gordhan, because the matter is not between us and Sane. The matter is between us and Pravin, and they are using Sane to come and defend Pravin. We were speaking outside outside the commission rather, against what Pravin is going to say in the commission. And Sanef took offense and came to the Equality Court. For what reason, we don't know. That's why their advocates are struggling. Sanef just brought a junior counsel here to come and destroy his career before it even started. And I'm considering to give him an opportunity in the next case of EFF to redeem himself, where he will deal with real cases, where he will present very clear legal arguments before the court. The man can't clarify the tweet between Mkletama and some nobody, and he attributes that to the EFF. And when the judge says, but the man is responding to Mkletama, the man just got lost. It was like his Zuma during the commission looking for pages. Which page is where? So you could see that there is really a confusion in the camp of the enemy. And we are more than happy that the loudmouths have come to expose themselves here. There's nothing that this court will fight against the EFF. And the problem we have today in South Africa is that those with money want to suppress political speech. And we must guard against that. Because in the absence of the political speech, there is no opposition party. Opposition parties survive through political speech. We can't build RDP houses, we don't have budgets. We can't build roads and say to people, this is what we have done. The least we can do for our people is to speak on their behalf. We are in court permanently because the enemy agents have chosen the terrain of the struggle. They've moved from the picket lines and brought the revolution into the courts because they know that at the picket lines they will not win against us. And they want to use the money they have to suppress those they disagree with politically. Sanef can afford the money. George Soros has got the money and is feeding them with the money. That's why they can come here with a very useless case, because they've got all the money they need from the rich, which are financing them. So they know that if they were to take us on through columns, through editorial comments, through articles, they will not win, because there is an alternative platform called a social media. They are no longer manipulating the narrative. There is an alternative now, and that's what they have a problem with. They want to suppress the tweets. They want to suppress political speech, because the tweets and the social media in general has replaced unethical journalism, which is taken head on at that platform of a social media. How do you say cut their head off? It's an intimidation or hate speech or anything of that sort, when government speaks every day and say we declare war against poverty. Have you ever seen ministers carrying AK-47s since war is declared against poverty? It is a political speech. There is a way politicians speak about, and it is not going to change today because it's not favorable to the favorites of Sanef. So we know very well that it is Pravin masquerading as Sanef, and we have no doubt that Shem Mahlatsi is just being Mahlatsi. There is nothing she can do. She's serving the interest of the bosses, and very soon they will be exposed for who they are. We have no enemies with Mahlatsi and with the rest of them. We don't have a problem at all. We disagree with how they want to handle issues in South Africa. When it is their favorites, they want to abandon ethics of journalism to protect their favorites, and we call them out. I just woke up one day, Ranjeni blocked me. But the following, a day before we were talking, there was no problem. For what reason, I don't know. Because they don't want to be exposed, they don't want to be called out. And we call them out all the time. So calling a person a Satan, it can't be a hate speech. That is a used name. All the time you've got problems with people in the communities where we come from. Every time we disagree with someone, we pull a Satan. That's how we express ourselves. And therefore, today, because they've got nothing against the EFF, they go on a fishing expedition to find anything they can destroy the EFF with. And this time, they are not going to succeed. And we are confident that we will win this case. Thank you.
Mr. Malema, your legal counsel, the legal counsel of the EFF did indicate in court that the EFF is still against online abuse.
Yes.
Just to expand on that for us, because I think at the heart of this case, also some might argue, is the fact that on social media a lot of people are facing this abuse.
Well, there is a social media abuse all over the world. It's not in South Africa only, and it's not caused by the EFF, where we see clear hate, particularly from recognizable members of the EFF, including leaders. We condemn it and we call them to order. Many of them have been instructed in the past to delete what we perceive as offensive tweets as the EFF, because we do not agree with any form of bullying. But our members should never be scared to engage robustly in a heated manner, especially with journalists who descend into the terrain of politics and want to be players in the political field. Those ones will engage them without being apologetic about it. But people should always use superior logic and win their arguments through facts, not through name calling, not through intimidation, particularly against female journalists.
Ms. Malema, just adding up to that point, your legal counsel also argued very strongly that why is SANEF not really investing time to get the identities of the so-called trolls on social media and rather bring them to court, take action against them to stop all of this, then hold the EFF accountable. Do you feel the same, and how do you elaborate on that?
Absolutely, they just bring a long list of people that are not members of the EFF to justify a case against the EFF. Actually, Adrian Basson at some point claimed to have capacity to unearth fake accounts and people behind them. If you remember, it was Adrian Basson and others who claimed that they knew who Advovo was, a man not Beru was. So they've got a way of identifying those people. I don't understand why they can't go and unearth them, bring them to court. Then Basson says people who are intimidating, we must condemn them. We are not in the business of condemning those trolls which are unidentifiable on Twitter. Some of them, the fake accounts. We must spend time condemning everything that is against Basson. Basson is a spoiled brat. That's what happens with white privilege. When a white person is being insulted, all of us must stop and condemn everything. We get insulted all the time by some white people who claim to be on Basson's side. We never said to Basson, no, condemn them, take responsibility. We know that sometimes he doesn't even see the tweets, sometimes he doesn't even agree with what those people are saying, because Twitter streets can be very rough. And if you are weak, stay out of tweet. Just delete your account. That's what we have accepted. We get called names all the time because we know we're in wrong streets. Twitter streets are extremely rough, and journalists must not be crybabies. They must come to accept that there are no ethics or code of conduct for Twitter users there. People use all types of ways, but members of the EFF, once identified and engaged in wrongful things, we take them head on and we call them to order.
Another point is that this whole court battle was unnecessary. It could have actually been resolved through
Absolutely.
a mere apology.
Absolutely.
And you only apparently apologize in court cases. Why didn't you
No,
perhaps apologize to the journalists who felt offended?
There's no one who has asked for an apology before. They actually asked for an apology in the court papers. And I said, you know what? To say sorry to someone doesn't mean you are wrong. So if you say I'm offended, okay, sorry, bye. That's it. And that's what I'm saying. So if they are offended by Satan, sorry. And then let's move on. The problem, Mathat, was too forward and wanted a meeting immediately, as if she's a queen mother. Every time she speaks, we must all stop and attend to her. We said to her, Mathat, we're too busy with elections. We'll see you after elections. We're going to see her after elections, win or lose. We can't live without each other. As SANEF and the EFF, as important role players in the democracy of our country. So we said to her, we'll see you after elections. This court shouldn't mean anything, it's outcome. That's why our lawyer says there are no winners, there are no losers here. So whether we win or lose, we'll still meet SANEF, we'll still listen to them, and we'll engage each other from that point of view. But we have a problem with Adrian Basol, who is an outright racist, who has got a problem, who's not even ashamed in the court papers that he is allowed to be biased, and he's biased. So I don't think we'll have time for those type of people who have a vendetta against the EFF.
And Mr. Malema, in terms of some of the assertions made that some journalists, younger journalists, are now scared because of the intimidation that is purported to have taken place with senior journalists, what are your views to journalists who feel that way?
Well, I've never met them. I can't respond to things I can't touch. Because the younger journalists are very fond of the EFF. They love the EFF. They can associate with the EFF. They are actually the ones who are always advising the leadership of the EFF on how to go about it, including how their seniors are abusing them and talking down on them and trying to impose certain narratives on them. There is no young journalist I can think of who has got a problem with the EFF. I've never, it's always these oldies who have a problem with the EFF. The younger generation appreciate and associate with the struggles of the EFF, and they feel much more comfortable with the EFF. It was younger journalists who approached the EFF and said, please form a union for journalists, because we are struggling in the newsrooms, in the editorial rooms, and we believe that it is the EFF related union which can help us fight these battles. If there are those who are really intimidated and not playing to the gallery and trying to impress their seniors, there's nothing to be intimidated about. If you have done journalism, you will know that it comes with territory. The journalists cover stories in the most violent environment and never feel intimidated. They always go for the best of the best stories, for the best angle, for the best shoot, in the most dangerous places. A journalist that gets threatened by a speech from a truck, that is not a journalist that is well trained, who understands that there's actually going to be worse than what this person is saying on top of the truck.
So just to be clear, Mr. Malema, you're saying or dismissing the allegations put forward in court that the EFF has basically encouraged an environment in which journalists need to be scared to critically report on the EFF?
We don't associate with that. Actually, the judge had to remind them that Malema reminds those people in your own papers, you do say that he says, do not use violence, especially against the female journalists, when the junior of SANEF was trying to avoid that part. The judge said you must read that part as well, where Malema says that there shouldn't be a violence. The judge also goes to an extent of reminding them again that we will never stop to engage these people in a manner we are doing now until they act professional. The guy wants to avoid the professional part and want to insist that until they stop being critical of the EFF. The judge says no, he says until they act professional. We have no problem with any journalist who acts within the ethics of journalism. But the ones that go to town to defend and to discredit the EFF, worse on the eve of the elections, were the duty to defend the image of our own organization.
All right, thank you very much. You all
Thank you.
have yourself a great day.